Hello, welcome to Tinge Ginge. Now today what I'm going to be showing you are the custom hoppers that I've made for my ASFs and my rats. I'm also going to show you a little gadget I've made just to feed them some peanut butter. I was having a lot of issues with all of these things. I used to have these little hang-on hoppers that I'd put on the side of the tubs that I'd put the food in, and the ASFs and stuff like that, they'd be able to get inside there, they'd pull the food out. They're an absolute nightmare opening and closing the drawers. So I ended up taking all them out, and I was literally just putting food in there daily just to sort of reduce the wastage, but even then they'd eat part of it, then they'd foul it off, they'd go to the toilet and whatever, and then that'd get wasted. And I've tried loads of different things. I even, on my racks, I used to have larger mesh on the top. That used to be the sort of the top tray on the tubs. And I did actually have a couple of the baby ASFs escape through that mesh. Somehow they managed to get through, squeeze through, and I had a load of babies running about. So I had to cut my mesh down. I believe it's only 5 by 5 mil squares. It's only tiny. And for me to put the food on top of that like most people do, it just wasn't feasible. The ASFs just weren't getting through to get the food. Babies weren't able to climb up and get hold of the food. So I just resorted to putting the food in the tubs and letting them eat the food from there, but again, it's wastage and things like that. So I wanted to try and come up with a way that I could feed them their food without being wasted, and also a way that it's going to last a little bit longer, so I don't have to continuously feed them every single day, because it does take quite a lot of time going through and feed them all. So if you do follow me on Instagram, you would have seen this already. I think I teased these little rings to begin with. That's what I've 3D printed as a sort of prototype, just as a little thing to try, and then I also showed the actual hopper itself, which is this. We're going into a little bit of detail how I make it, how I chuck it all together, and then I'll show you actually what it looks like in the tubs. But you can see that's half empty now. I probably filled it up about 2 weeks ago, maybe. I'm not sure how long the post was now, but say about 2 weeks ago I filled this up. As you can see, it's lasted quite a long time. It's a decent size as well. It doesn't take up too much room in the tub. And yeah, there's a few things that I don't like about this, but it does the job. That's the main thing. So what we'll do is we'll have a closer look at this now, and then I'll just show you how I put it all together. So you haven't seen my Instagram already. This is what I came up with. You can see there, it's just a simple ring, and it's just got these little hooks on there. And they're what I use to actually hook onto the mesh of the actual cage, and they just suspend from the top, and that way I just find that they stay away from the sawdust a little bit better. They don't get all the sort of the crap on them that they had on the previous ones that I made. And yeah, they're nice and robust, they're nice and strong, flexible, easy to wash as well, so if they do get dirty in some way you can wash these. And yeah, there's not really too many bad things. Getting this attached to the mesh is a little bit fiddly. I think that's because where I've had to make these slightly smaller than the mesh on the tubs, it's a little bit tricky just to sort of get this attached, and you've got obviously all the ASFs and the rats running about, and every now and again they like to have a little nibble just to see what's going on, just to investigate, because that's normally how they test things. They'll go, I'll give it a little nibble, see what it is, and then they leave it alone. So as long as you can get around that, this isn't too bad. And the other thing I found really hard was I had to get this to a specific dimension, just so these were exactly this width apart, same with this width, just so when I do push it up onto the mesh, it was enough to stretch, click on, and then sit perfectly like that. I went for circle as well, just because it's a lot cleaner of a look when you actually put the mesh together. So I'll quickly show you how the cage looks. So this is what the cage looks from the top. You can see I've got these little bits of wire inside. This is the best way I could find of actually attaching it, so it's nice and secure. It's just a cheap bit of wire that I use basically, and all I've done is I've drilled holes on the side just there, and you can see there's a piece of wire that runs through and that actually holds that in place. And I've only done 4 of these in each corner, and they're pretty much stable. The base is a separate piece, so this is a whole separate piece on its own. When I originally did these, I was extending this round piece up, cutting it into little sections all the way around, and then I was folding those sections over into the middle, and it worked, but it weren't that nice. There's a lot of jagged edges that the ASFs and stuff could get caught up on, and I just didn't like the idea of it all being bunched up in the middle. It just looks messy and horrible, so this is the thing that I've come up with. So what I'm doing is I'm going to quickly run through how I put it all together. and then I'll show you what it looks like in the tub, and then I'll also show you the little thing that I've made to put the peanut butter on, just so that they can have a little bit of extra treat and just a little bit of enrichment while they're in the tubs. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to gauge roughly where the middle of these rings are. So this is about the middle there, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to use a board marker just because it rubs off easy, but I'm just going to make 2 little dots roughly where I think they need to be, just in the center like that. And I'm going to do this on all 4 sides. I'm going to do it in between each of those hooks, and they're just going to be the little anchor points of where our cage is going to be around the outside. So again, I'm going to look at where the middle is roughly. It doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just going to do 2 little holes. 2 holes are going to be there. 2 holes are going to be there. So just like that, 2 little marks. You don't have to measure them out, it doesn't have to be 100. You can measure them if you want, but my OCD is bad, but it doesn't go to that extent. So this is the wire that I've been using. This is just some cheap steel wire that I've got from B&Q. I don't know what the diameter of it is. I think it's probably about just over 1 millimeter in diameter, this wire. It's really easy to work with, really malleable, easy to bend. And you're going to be using this along with a drill. You're going to be chucking this up in the drill and then using the drill to twist that wire to make your secure sort of fixing. You don't have to use a wire. I guess you can use it by hand, but it's just going to take a little bit longer. It's probably going to be quite rough on your fingers after a while, and it's probably not going to be as tight or neat. So I prefer to use a drill, but yeah, this is the wire I'm going to use. You can see how thin it is, and all I've got here is a tiny drill. It's probably just a little bit bigger than what the wire is, just because that's the smallest I've got. But to be honest, you don't want these holes too big anyway, because if you create a hole that's too big on this, then you're going to make a weak section where it can break. So all I'm going to do, really simple, I'm just going to place that drill on one of those marks. Just going to slowly drill through like that. And I'm basically going to do this for all 4 of those marks I've made. Those marks are just sort of a rough guide of where I need them to be. I'm probably going to put the holes slightly closer together. But yeah, it doesn't really matter, to be honest, just as long as the holes are big enough to get the wire through, but not too big that you weaken the plastic. And that's them all drilled. So I've got 2 holes on all 4 sides. That's going to be our anchor points for our wire to go through. Next thing you want to get is you need to get your wire mesh. Now, I don't think it particularly matters what wire mesh you use. Obviously it needs to be big enough that the animals that you're feeding can get through to the food, but to be honest, it doesn't really matter. This is one that I picked up from B&Q. I think I don't know what it is, but it's just some sort of steel. But when I said I had some issues with it, is I bought this, and obviously this is, you can see it's like a dark green colour. It's actually got a layer of paint over the top. Originally I bought it, I thought, oh, it looks quite cool, and then once I bought it, started making it, I thought, oh, that's quite soft on the metal. That's going to come off fairly easily, and yeah, basically after putting it in for about an hour, I don't know if you're going to be able to see on here, but you can see the metals come through where the ASFs and the rats have literally just chewed that paint coating off. I don't think they're eating it. Like I said, this has been in there probably about 2 weeks now. None of them have died, so I don't think they're actually eating it, but if it gives them something to do and something to nibble on, that's absolutely brilliant. But you can see, if I show you the plastic ring at the top, there's no nibble marks whatsoever. Oh, actually there's a little bit of a nibble mark here, you can see. They've had a little bit of a go at that, but to be honest, that's not going to cause too much damage. And the thing is, these are quite cheap to make anyway, so if one of these does get quite beat up, all I've got to do is just snip off the 4 fastenings that I've got there, get one of these, put it on, literally just zip up another 4 wires, and that's basically brand new, ready to go again. I don't think this is going to rust either, because it's not going to be wet. I'm not going to be washing it unless they do sort of defecate on it or anything like that. But to be honest, because this is raised up off the floor, they shouldn't put any muck on this at all anyway. Just looking at the condition this is in, there's no mess on it at all. So yeah, I don't think it's going to be an issue. So that's the mesh I use. You can get it uncoated, it doesn't matter. I just bought this because it looked nice at the time. But the next stage you want to do is you need to measure out how much of this you actually need. You can use a tape measure, you can use a piece of string, wrap it around this to see how much you need. For me, all I did was I just took the wire, wrapped it around, and then I made sure I had one square overlapping basically, just so that I've got enough that I can fasten that in place and hold that there. And there, that's the way I measured it. And then to get the height, I basically made this a little bit longer than what I needed it to be. I think I made it probably 2 squares too long, and all I did was I just kept cutting it down until I had the right size. And all I'd do is I'd place this on the mesh inside the tub, see how far down it went to the sawdust, and then I'd just cut to where I wanted it to be. And to cut the wire, all I've got is a pair of wire clippers. Go through this like butter, really easy, but if you haven't got these little snip things, you can use a pair of pliers. They've got cutters that are sort of down below where the jaws are. But yeah, anything to cut these. You could probably cut through this with a pair of scissors. You might damage the scissors a little bit, but if they're an old pair, it doesn't really matter. So all I'm going to do is now I'm just going to cut this all the way along where I need it to be, and then we'll start fastening it with the wire. Now that's all cut, you can see that's going to fit around there absolutely perfectly. I'm going to start taking pieces of my wire. I'm just going to cut them into small lengths, and then what we'll be doing is we'll be passing it through. We'll actually be chucking that up in the drill and twisting it. The reason I like using the drill is because it's a lot quicker than doing it by hand. It's not going to hurt your hands as much, and it just gives you a nice neat twist on the wire. So there's just benefits to it. Just, I've always said, work smart, not hard, basically. Why make stuff difficult for yourself when you can do it a lot easier? So all I'm going to do to begin with is I'm just going to bend this over in place, and I need to secure this first square in place. Now what I've done is, you can see I've gone over the top just like that, and what I'm going to do is over the top of this square here, over the top of this square where this corner is, I'm literally going to put this through there. Don't know how easy you're seeing that. You can see I've gone through that square, and it's sort of like the corners. So you can see I've put it through the corners there, and that's what's going to lock this in place, hopefully. Once I've done this, what I'm going to do, you need to make sure you've got your clips the right way. I'm just going to pass these through those 2 little holes that we've made with the drill. Pass them all the way through. I'm going to slot that on the inside. Pull that wire up nice and tight, and that's going to be my first secure point that I'm going to do. That's going to hopefully hold it in place enough so I can get all the others in, and then I can start joining the rest of it together just to make it one solid unit, just so it doesn't sort of pull apart or anything like that. So the way I'm going to secure this is using my drill. Is I'm going to open the chuck up slightly. I'm going to place those wires into the chuck. Now I do it the lazy way. You can, this has got a chuck on it, so I can actually turn this to tighten it, but I'm a bit lazy. I literally just pop it in, turn it, hold on, and I tighten it that way. So once them wires are in there nice and tight, this is where it gets a bit fiddly because you've only got 2 hands to do this. What you want to do is you want to place that ring inside the wire and get it to where you need it to be. So you can see that I've got that clamped in place, and all I'm going to do with the drill is I'm going to slowly turn, and you can see that wire's twisting up, it's tightening on that joint just there, and I'm just going to keep twisting until it's just the right tautness. Now I found with this wire, if you do over twist it, it does snap. So you can see that I've got a nice tight twist, and you can see that's pulled up right tight to the plastic ring there, and on this side you can see that's pulled it up nice and tight as well. So as soon as that's done like that, I'm just going to ease the drill off, take the wire out of the chuck, and you can see there, that's our first join that we've got. That's holding that wire in there. Once I get the other ones in, it will be a little bit more stable, but it's just better to stop this wire from keep flicking open just to get that first one done. And once I've done that first one, I'm going to put a piece on this bottom here, and that's just going to stop that from moving about as well. So I'm going to tidy this up. We don't need all of this wire sticking out, so all I'm going to do with my clippers is I'm going to come in and I'm just going to clip off as fairly close to that as possible. I don't want to clip too close because I'd want to try and bend this wire over so that's as flush with the plastic as possible, because I don't really want any sharp edges sticking out. So all I'm going to do is clip that off. And there we go. That's the beginning of the hopper. This I'm just going to take a pair of small nose pliers. So I've got these long nose pliers here, they've got quite a small end. All I'm going to do I'm going to place them inside, and I'm just going to bend that over just like that, push it against the ring, and that way it just makes sure that that stays out of the way, just so it's not going to get in the way. To be honest, the ends of these, they're not that sharp. They're a bit rough, but they're not sharp. I don't think they're going to cause any problems. Remember, with these, the multis are going to be chewing on the wire anyway. They chew on wire all the time. It's just something they do, so I don't think that's going to be an issue for them. So yeah, next what I'm going to do is I'm going to snip off another piece of wire, and I'm going to do exactly the same thing I've done here. I'm just going to place it in this corner, and then I'm going to get these bits secured together as well. Go, there's that bottom piece secured in. Once you get the bottom ring in as well, it's just going to make it a little bit more stronger, but this little tag end here, I'm not too worried about that flopping around. That's just going to stay in there. It might poke out the side, but I've got no issues with that. When we put the bottom piece in, that should hold that in place anyway, so it's not going to get in the way. What I'll probably do now is this center piece just here, I'm going to put one more piece of wire across there just to hold that in place, and then that is this joint completely done, finished with. I don't need to do any more work on that. Now that piece is secure in there as well, so that's all nice and tight. There's going to be a few little gaps, but to be honest, that doesn't really matter. Once you get all this put together, it sort of makes itself one whole unit, and it just sort of strengthens itself. So next thing I'm going to do now, as you can see, this ring goes in there absolutely perfectly. I'm going to go around all the edges where we've got those holes. I'm going to put the wire either side of the hole, put our twist wire through, tighten it up, then that's going to be that top ring done. And there we go. That literally took me about a minute to do all them three, get them all nice and solid in there. So that's the main part of it done, really. That's probably the easiest part, if you like to say. The next part's a little bit more challenging, just because we've got a circle here, trying to make a circle out of this mesh. You can make it as easy as you want or as hard as you want, it's entirely up to you. The way I've done it is probably the harder way, but for me it just makes it a little bit better, to be honest. It's not, you don't have to bend all this wire overlapping it and stuff like that. It's literally just one single piece. So what we'll do is we'll quickly show you that now. We're going to be using the same wire, same twist technique on this wire here. It's all going to be exactly the same bit there. You can see that it's coming along quite nicely, and this top ring here is sturdy as anything. It's not going to come off. Yeah, really happy with it. So what I'll do is now I'll show you how I'll do the bottom part. Right, so for the base, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the same piece of mesh, and what I've got just a square piece that I've cut off. Now the measurements you want for this, I did it so I had one extra square around the outside. This is probably a little bit big what I need, so I'm going to trim it down. But if I just place that on there, you can see down this side I've got one row of squares on that side, one row of squares on that side. I've got one row of squares. I can nip off these little bits here, they're not important. And then over here I've got a couple, I can just nip these off along here, and that's going to give me my row of squares. That's basically what I'm going to use to sort of fold up. Then I'm going to tuck that inside of here. What that does is it sort of pushes this out to give it a little bit more rigidity, and it also means that where they're folded over, I've then got sections along the bottom that I can use this wire just to sort of tie that into place so that it doesn't drop out the bottom, basically. And for me, that's just the neatest way I found possible that I could do it for now. My rodent racks are going to be changing. I'm slowly working on my own aluminium racks that I'm building for my snakes. As soon as they all work out fine, and they're working perfectly, I'm probably going to start making my own custom aluminium racks for the rodents as well. At the minute they're just in wooden ones. I will do a video on that at some point, but I want to do a sort of a longer in-depth video on how I went about making that, so that'll be another video coming up shortly. But yeah, eventually everything here is going to be on aluminium racks, apart from a hatchling rack. That's staying as it is because I think that's absolutely spot on, and I don't want to mess about buying loads of new tubs, so that's going to stay as it is. But what I'll do is I'm going to trim this to size. So as I said, I want one row of squares all the way around the outside, and then I'm going to use that to sort of bend up and put inside the circle. And there you can see we've got like this sort of diamond pattern. That's what that's the best sort of design I could come up with that would fix into the center of this perfectly, so that I can have all these tags that fold over. If I turn it around, you see all these little tags there, they're all going to fold inside, and then with a piece of wire twisted, that's going to hold them in place, and it's literally just them two pieces. That's the best way I can find of doing it right now. I'm I'm probably going to change this slightly when I get onto my aluminium racks, just because with them I'm hopefully going to try and make a way that rather than having to keep cutting and bending and applying, I want to try and make this and the base out of one single piece. I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to do it yet. I'm not very good at maths. I don't have a clue how all the geometrical shapes and things like that work, but I believe I can make it out of one single piece with just one join coming all the way along the bottom and the top. It's going to take a little bit of work just to get to that stage. I've got to try and get my head around how it's all going to work, but this is basically what I've come up with for this. So all I'm going to do is now, where all these bits are, I'm literally going to fold them up so they're level with this, and then we'll actually put it inside, check for fit, make any adjustments that we need to do. So there you can see I've bent it all up. It kind of resembles a circle. Once we actually get this into the mesh cage, we can sort of bend this up and get it to where we want it. Just make it a little bit more of a better fit, basically. So next thing I'm just going to make sure I've got all these bent up nicely. And then I'm going to push, I would push this down from the top, but I think this is going to be a little bit bigger, so I will need to sort of adjust this a little bit more. But all I'm going to do is I'm going to squeeze this into the bottom. Now with this being mesh, it is going to be quite difficult to see just because the camera is not going to be able to pick it up that well. But all I'm going to do is, as I'm fitting it, I'm just going to work the corners. I'm going to keep bending stuff around to where it needs to be so it gets a nice snug fit. And then once that does eventually go in, be a little bit fiddly to get it in there. Just got to work it a little bit, keep bending the wire inwards until you get that in, and that's it. So now that's in roughly, what I can do is I can put it on the base like that. I'm just going to put my hand inside and I'm just going to push that wire down on the inside, flattening it all out, just making sure that it's nice and all tucked in. Then I'm going to go around, check to make sure none of the bits have come through. So you see like this bit here has popped out. So all I'm going to do is be very gentle. I'm just going to try and pop that piece back inside. So bend it over and pop it in. And there we go. Basically go around the entire way doing that, making sure there's none of the points sticking out basically. Again, I don't think that's going to be an issue. Like I said, none of these areas are sharp. I can run this across my hand, as you can hear, and I'm not getting cut, I'm not getting scratched, so there's no rough edges that are gonna harm the rodents at all. And all I'm going to do is going to make sure all that is flush, and once that's done, I'm then going to go around, and like we did with these wire bits here and this here, I'm just going to take little bits of wire. All four corners are probably going to go and be secured in. Then I'm probably going to do diagonals there and there. And if I look at the other one that I've made, I think that's basically all I did. So yeah, so I've got a piece that's attached here, here, here and here, and then I've done exactly the same. I've done diagonals on each of them corners, and that's enough to hold us in place. So you think this is quite a large tub. This has got a bit of weight to it. You see how big the pellets are. They've been tugging on that, pulling at it. It's had a full basket full, and yeah, it's not fallen out at all. It's been absolutely stable as anything. So yeah, I've got no issues with that whatsoever. So I'm going to do exactly the same now. I'm going to get loads of pieces of wire, attach it around all the points that I need to, and then we'll show you the end product. And there you can see all the sections I've joined it on, and that's actually pretty stable. I can put my hand in there, I can push down. A good way to check is if you push the corners, make sure none of the corners pop through. But yeah, that's absolutely perfect. It's even got a nice little, I don't even know what you'd call it, like a bold effect. It's like rounded at the bottom. So really happy with the way that eventually comes out. It's absolutely spot on. So all I'll do now is I'll just go around and I'll literally just clip off all these tag ends. And the thing I like about cutting it with this is that it doesn't make a sharp edge there at all. Like you can hear how hard I'm sort of hitting that with my thumb, and there's no cuts, no scratches or anything. So this sort of just, rather than cut it and leave a sharp edge, it sort of just mashes the wire. It's such a soft wire. I think it just doesn't hold a sharp edge, to be honest. So yeah, it's not going to harm the multis in any way, to be honest. I'm not worried about that at all. Like I said, I've been using this for 2 weeks now. There are babies in that tub and I've not seen any damage, any injuries or anything like that, so I've got no worries or issues with this whatsoever. So you could probably just leave these hanging out. I probably wouldn't, because they could poke themselves in the eye. I don't think they're that stupid, but you know, takes all sorts, doesn't it? But yeah, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to bend these inwards now, just like that. So you can see it's facing inwards. They're nice and tight, so they shouldn't move around too much. That's just going to make it 100% safe. So they're all tucked in on the inside, and that is it. That's basically done. Absolutely bang on. Really, really happy with that. Like I said, it's the best idea I can come up with so far without just obviously putting the food on the top of the grate. Obviously, this is the grate I was actually using. It's the same size I was using. And yeah, I had issues. I don't know if anyone else has had issues, but the Maltese were somehow, you can see, I can get my finger pretty much all the way through there. The baby Maltese were able to squeeze through that. And yeah, they were running about. I had to put traps down, and it was a shame, but it's just one of them things. It was something that I overlooked. It was a mistake on my behalf, and you hopefully you do learn from your mistakes. So this is the next best thing I come up with. This is like the Mark II hopper. But yeah, so what I'll do is now I'll quickly show you how I actually install this. It's going to be quite difficult. I'm probably going to use it on a drawer that doesn't have Maltese and stuff in, just because I just can't deal with them having a little nibble on me. Even though my Maltese, they're spot on, I can stroke and pick them up. They don't bite. They just have a little curious nibble just to see what you are, basically. So yeah, I'll quickly show you how this goes on, how it comes off, and yeah, I'll show you the little peanut butter feeder that I've also made for them. So this is what the top of my mesh looks like. I don't know if I can focus on it that well, but you can see the mesh is absolutely teeny tiny. So if I was to put food on the top of this, says that they might get a tiny bit through, but there's no way they'd get enough of the food through this to actually sort of survive on. And for the baby, you can see my tubs they're quite big. If I put my hand there, you can see I like to use quite high tubs. I know some people use tubs that are probably about this high. I like to use huge tubs. I think these are, I think they're 33 litres. Don't take my word for it, but they're literally just underbed storage tubs that I use. They're dirt cheap. I think you can get 3 for $3.99 or whatever it is from wherever. But yeah, these are absolutely brilliant, these tubs, and I had any issues with them. Slide in and out. I've got my own feeder. Not feed, I've got my own water thing going, got them on these little runners, and to be honest, they do the job absolutely perfectly. I am going to try and get some different ones of these, just because these break very, very easily. If I had one of these that was a little bit stiff, I went to pull it out, and this then had a massive crack all the way down here, and that's it. That's that tub wasted. You can't use it again. So they're good. They're nice and cheap, nice and effective, but they do break very easily. They're quite brittle. So I think that's from where these shops leave them outside in the sun, and I don't think these do too well in the sun. It just breaks the molecules in the plastic down too much, and that's what makes them brittle. But the majority of them have been absolutely fine. But you can see this one is a gap, because this is one that did break on me, unfortunately, but we move. So what I'm going to do is going to show you how to apply this. Now, it can be quite tricky to apply it, especially when you've got these little buggers running about. Nobody likes to get bit by them. I mean, I can show you these guys. These have got babies. This is, I think we've got 3 generations. Yeah, I've got 3 pegs on there, so we've got 3 generations. So you can see this little one here. It's not going to have a nibble at me. I can give it a little poke. You can see they're pretty good, even around the babies. They are quite timid. I don't know if that's because I don't muck about with them too much. I think in the day they are still a wild animal. I don't want to play around with them too much, basically, because I don't want to mess around with the babies and things like that. But you can see they're all really inquisitive. They're not skittish, not running about all over the place. I can make noises, I can bang on the tubs. They're pretty used to me, because I spend a lot of time in this room anyway. And you can see these 3 are the parents. I don't like to keep them too crowded, so you can see they've got a huge amount of room in there. Yeah, I'll go into this into more detail now, but yeah, you can see I've got a few babies growing up there and there. Love these things, it's just adorable. So yeah, so they're not running around trying to nibble with things like that, I'll do it on this spare rack that I've got here. So I've made these little grooves on the ring there, just small enough so they actually click through onto this mesh. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try and film this from above, and that way I can have my hands free and I can show you how I actually attach it. So yeah, so you can see the little clips there, they literally just fit through them squares perfectly, and all you do is you push through. Now this wire on here, when I made these, I made them in a bit of a rush, to be honest. I didn't really look at them. The 3rd one of these I've made is pretty decent, but this was the first rack I made, so this has some mega improvements to be, but these are just temporary until I get my aluminium ones made. But so if I can zoom in a little bit more, so you can see where it goes through that hole there, just here. So all you do is you sort of push that first one through and that clips on. And the best way to do this is to do opposite. So like you'd sort of tighten up a new wheel on a car or anything like that, it's best to do this in opposite. So what I would do is I would give this a little bit of a squeeze, and you can see this one down here. I'm going to pop that through and that will make like a little click. And so both of those are then clipped on. Next thing I'm going to do is going to work onto an opposite, so you can see the camera's slowly down on me, but this one and this one are going to be exactly the same. I'm going to clip one end through, you can hear that snap, it's really satisfying that. Then you can see this here, I'm just going to push through on that one, and then you can see it didn't make a little snap, but it's there, and that's basically on there. So you can see I'm pulling that wire quite hard, giving it a wiggle from side to side, and there's just enough tension on this plastic ring that because it is that flexible, it can sort of snap those clips into place. So you can see there, if I zoom in nice and close, you can see how that's snapped on over that bit of wire. Same with this one here, you can see it's snapped over, nice and secure. Same with this one, and that's same with that one over there. And that's basically how the feed will hang down. Now you can basically place this anywhere you want. I normally place mine sort of a little bit further forward than this front bar, just because of the thickness of the tubs there. You can see I've just got, once that goes in, you can see, I don't know if you can see all the way through the top. No, you're not going to be able to see it. If I try and get a closer look, you can see it there basically. So this is that front bar, this is where the tub comes up to, so I leave a little bit of a gap, and then that is where I then place that ring. I do tend to put this in the middle here. As you can see over this side, I've got some holes, and that's where I put my water nipples. They go through them little holes there, like that. That's how I water my whole system basically. And what I'll do is I'll actually put this sort of in the middle here, and what that does is it just gives something for the babies to climb up on so they can reach these nipples. Because as I've said, you can see these tubs are quite high. The adults, they can reach the nipple quite easily, they don't have any issues, but obviously these up and coming babies, so this second generation over in the corner there, there they are, they're not quite tall enough to reach. They can jump up on the mesh and drink from the nipple, but just having this little ladder there for them to sort of climb up the side and jump up to, it's just a little bit better for them basically. And yeah, that's basically how it works. You can see it's hanging down. When they're actually inside, they probably come up to about here, so just above the sawdust level. They obviously kick it about and stuff, but I've not had any issues with any sawdust or anything getting into this. And yeah, as you can see, it's really on there. It's not coming off basically. Taking it off is a lot easier. So if you need to fill it up or take it out because you're doing cleaning or whatever, obviously if I pull the drawer out, this is going to trap the drawer in place, so just bear that in mind. You don't want to forget it's in there. Whip the drawer out quickly and then catch this and potentially snap these off. But to get them out, all you do is you can use one finger, you literally just pull it back, push it through, pull it back, push it through, push it through, push it through, and bosh, there it goes, it falls off. So nice and simple to take off, a lot easier to take off than it is to put on. But at the end of the day, this has saved me sort of having to feed every single day, things like that. So that's my little hopper design that I've come up with. It's basically like a bird feeder if you think about it. I think that's probably where I've got this idea from. I've seen loads of people doing variations of this where they'll sort of have like a piece of plastic tube all the way down, then they'll have a little piece of wire mesh at the bottom, attach that to the plastic tube, then they'll drop food in the top, and then they'll secure that against the side of a tub. That's kind of where I got this idea from, but for the design I've got, I didn't really want to attach it to the plastic because, like I said, this plastic on these tubs is quite brittle, and if there's a rat or something tugging on this trying to get some food out, I don't want to risk that tub breaking and them escaping. So this is the best idea I can come up with for me right now. So yeah, really happy with this. The other thing I showed on my Instagram was this little thing here. So I do like to treat my animals. Obviously they are kept in tubs. I know people think it is cruel, but the way you got to look at it is if they're born in captivity, that's all they know, so they don't know what the outside is. It's not like they're missing it, but because they are kept in these drawers, you want to try and give them the best life you can. You don't want them to go without. So I like to treat my animals, my Maltese, I give them mealworms, they go absolutely crazy for them, chase them all around the tub. I'll drop a couple in the sawdust, they'll chase after them, just as a little bit of enrichment for them, a little bit of goodness as well. I also like to feed them peanut butter, same with my rats. The rats don't like the mealworms as much, but the ASFs go crazy for them. But yeah, the rats, they love the peanut butter. The problem I was having was I'd either smear the peanut butter on the side of the tub and then I'd leave a mess on the tub I'd have to clean, and then one of them would just take the whole lump off and run away with it, and then they'd push it into the sawdust and there'd just be a sticky mess at the bottom of the tub. It was I just didn't like it. It was just a nightmare to deal with. So I came up with something to sort of put the peanut butter on. The first idea I came up with was actually this. So this was my first idea. Thought about just putting the peanut butter over there, but it just wasn't sticky enough. You'd put a glob onto there and at some point they'd come along, they'd slide the whole blob off, and then we're back to square one. So I wanted to sort of create something that was a little bit more tricky for them to get it off, and also something just to give them something to do basically. You know, I don't have any wheels in there because they'll just chew them to hell. I can put toys and stuff in there, but again they're just going to chew them, defecate all over them, they're going to get ruined. So I wanted to put something else in there that's just going to sort of keep them stimulated that little bit more, give them that little bit more enrichment. And this is what I come up with. It's like a little a spiral. So when I used to go fishing, I used to have feeders that look like this, and you'd mould ground bait around it, chuck it out, and that's how you get your bait out. And that's where I got this idea from. Basically, it does resemble a feeder. This would be where your line would go, then your hook and stuff would come out at the bottom here, and then this is your bait. If you do fishing, you'll know exactly what I mean. If not, don't worry. But yeah, so this is what I've come up with, and the rats absolutely love it. So what I'll do is now, I did put a video up on my Instagram. If you haven't seen that, go and check it out. It's so cute. The rats are absolutely adorable. But I'll quickly show you how I put the peanut butter on this, and then we'll get a quick video of them actually eating it off. So this is smooth peanut butter. You probably use crunchy if you want. I don't think it really matters what peanut butter. I better cover that over in case someone says I'm trying to do branding, but it doesn't matter what peanut butter you use. Any peanut butter is completely fine. Yes, it's your preference basically. So you can see I've done it quite a few times already. I'll probably give them a little bit too much than I should, but who cares? And they love it and they're enjoying it. I'm just going to keep giving it to them. So the best way to do this, it's nice because it sort of does itself. Once this gets partially down the jar, I'm not too sure how I'm going to deal with that. I'm probably going to end up getting my hand in there, getting peanut butter absolutely everywhere, but we'll come to that at a later date. I'm not a big fan of peanut butter. I like the smell of it, but for some reason I just don't like the taste of it. I don't know why. I don't know if it's something psychological because I like peanuts, but I don't know. Maybe it's consistency. But all I'm going to do to load this up is I'm just going, there's a bit of ASMR here. Let me see if I can zoom in for you people that like that kind of stuff. So all I do is I just push this in, and you can see I've got a nice good dollop of it on there. I'm just going to do that a couple of times, plunging it in until it gets loaded up, and then I will actually rub the excess of that off, because otherwise they'll pull off a big chunk of it, run around with it in the cage, get it stuck to everything, cause a mess, and yeah, it just messes with my OCD. So that's what I've done. As you can see there's a nice good helping on there, and it's not particularly sticky when you just stick it to a surface, but when you have something like that that's got a little bit more grip to it, it just makes it a little bit harder for them to get that off. So what I'll do is now, using the hook, I've made this just small enough that it goes through them squares, and I can just twist it, hook it on. That way this is easy to take out. So we'll get this in there now, and you'll see how quickly they jump on it. They absolutely love it. So I'm just going to give them a little sniff of it just so they know it's there. As you can see, he's jumped on that straight away. So what I'll do is I'll push that a little bit so you can see the little holes there. All I'm going to do is I'm going to hook that through the grate, hang it over, and you can see that it actually swings. Again, because it swings, it's going to be something for them to sort of mess about with and play with. So I'm just getting my chair comfy because my legs are killing me. But you can see it swings about. It's nowhere near the sawdust, so there's no risk of it getting all that caught up on it. And yeah, it's just going to give them a little bit of something to do. And there, look, it's literally been in there a few seconds and he's straight on it. And watching them nibble on this is literally the cutest thing ever. I like it when they grab it with their paws and they get a little bit of peanut butter on their paws and they sit there cleaning their paws for ages. This is probably the fourth one of these I've put in here today. I probably shouldn't put that much in, but it's just so cute watching them eat it. So yeah, that's the video that I've wanted to put out. I've got quite a few videos that I haven't posted yet, just because I'm waiting for certain things. So I'm waiting for a couple of girls to lay first. Once they've laid and I've got them in the egg boxes, I'm going to be doing another video on the egg boxes, because I have got my own custom egg boxes that I've made now. And that's basically just because all the previous things that I've had happen to me during this season. I've just tried to make my egg boxes as bulletproof as possible, just trying to get that percentage of the eggs surviving and the babies hatching and things like that as high as possible. So once I do have a clutch dropped, which I think it's got to be any day now. She's making me wait on purpose. I think she's doing my head in, but she is due very, very soon. So as soon as she lays them eggs, we'll pull that clutch. I'll do a video on that. And then after that I'll probably release the video on the egg boxes. I do have a little sneak peek of them on my Instagram, so go and have a look over there, have a flick through, you might be able to see what it is. I'll give you a clue. I've taken a leaf out of the gecko breeders and how they separate their gecko eggs. Just because if you watch through my videos, you notice I've had quite a lot of issues, but I'll go into that into a lot more detail when I do that video. So yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Hopefully I've given you some ideas that if you are doing your own racks and things like that, just a few little tips here that I've put into place myself, just sort of make it a little bit easier for myself. Maybe you can take something away and put it towards your own racks or anything like that. But yeah, hope you've enjoyed watching. I really enjoyed making this video. These guys, I probably enjoy breeding these guys more than I do the Royals. I don't know why, but I get a little bit more satisfaction out of these guys, seeing that they're healthy, they're breeding and they're happy and things like that. So yeah, hope you've enjoyed watching and I'll see you in the next one. So I'll place the wire inside the chuck just like that, like I've shown before. Tighten it up, hold on to that as I tighten it up. Friction burn, ouchie.